T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 98 of whether you think it's the darkest corner of the internet or your favorite Hades Hermes combo. This is clearly your favorite Capricorn moon on Earth. I don't know if you can have a moon sign outside of the solar system, but yeah, welcome to another episode of the Midheaven Podcast. We're going to talk about a very dreary season that will let you know in 30 days that, yes, this is the end of the world. And everything you've known for decades, centuries is crumbling. The legacies and traditions you've lived your life through are dying a sad death. That doesn't mean you'll have a bad Capricorn season. This may liberate you, but I hope you're ready for the fuckery as we kick this off with the Sun Square Jupiter. And, you know, congratulations, my friend. It's going to be in your 7th house. So.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that that's in your 4th house and you're not even going to be here.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Right around the
Astrology
time.
again.
What's gonna the new moon's gonna be right on my IC. So yeah,
1
I know.
degree.
Squaring all 4 of my 0-degree cardinal points. Life is getting very loud right now.
That to me is like, I feel like the turning point was the full moon in Gemini, and then this Capricorn is we move forward. It's like we see the different direction and
Yeah.
yeah.
Capricorn season. We're here to talk to you guys about Capricorn season. Hopefully you guys like the Mercury retrograde. We really focused on what might be coming up, but now we want to talk to you guys about the transits throughout the season of Capricorn. We'll touch on the lunar stuff and some of the things going on with Pluto. Just looking at the chart, man, because we always do this. We've done this throughout this entire year. We look at the solstice and equinox charts and what that might be predicting for the better part of the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Which we'll wrap on, but I'm looking at a mass majority of the planets that are all moving through the last 3 signs. We've got Sun, Venus, Mercury, Pluto, and Capricorn. Capstellium is serious. It means business. It's about goals. Saturn is now getting ready to leave Aquarius pretty soon, so it's now in the 3rd decan of Aquarius, and Neptune is also in the 3rd decan of Pisces. So there's a lot going on that's like very Saturn, Neptune-esque. Like it's going to be a very serious next couple of months.
I'd like to speak on that because that was very important. The whole facet that the bulk of the planets are at the last 3 signs. As we can see with 2020, everything that really occurred since 2020 that has involved us in the situation we've been in started in Capricorn season. Like, and now that we're coming back around here, you want to think that if every year has 4 seasons, this last season is the finale. Like, this is going to hit the hardest. This is why the summer period in June hits hard because of the opposition. So I would like to start this off by recapping the Cancer and Libra solstice and equinox and how we kind of led up to here, because of course this Capricorn is going to complete what we individually discovered in Cancer.
Yeah, I mean, we had that, pretty much the last 2, we've seen an aspect to Jupiter, right? So we saw the fall, equinox that we had when the sun went into Libra. It was Sun and Mercury in opposition to Jupiter in Aries.
Powerful.
And then when we go back even further and look at when the sun just ingressed into Cancer and we had the summer solstice, it was the opening square to Jupiter in Aries. So when we had the spring in Aries, Jupiter and Neptune were still in Pisces. So the last 2 solstice and equinox points have been very loud. Global events. There's been this theme of Jupiter and Aries of personal freedom, personal beliefs, travel, growth, what we're learning about personal rights. That's going to keep coming up. But this is now the 3/4 square before we're coming into what will be the astrological new year
April
next
2023.
spring. Very different energy. We'll wrap on that. We have some episodes coming up where we're going to talk to you guys about what's going to be happening in 2023. But What do you make, first of all, like energetically, because we know that this is like a reset point.
Yeah.
Right? So
The Great Reset.
So what do you do during a winter solstice in Capricorn? Like,
Well, it's so amazing and controversial because I'm really coming to accept more. I'm liking personally, it's the aqua energy in me, but like I like to see the years now like a sitcom, a season sitcom. That sitcom has 4 seasons, but I'm learning to embrace more. Aries season is the first season, and then Capricorn season is the last season of that year. But it's very controversial because, you know, the new year starts with the winter solstice. And just for reference, once again, this third quarter square is based off on the new moon or the Sun Jupiter conjunction that was in Pisces. So that was the actual like conjunction. Then we had that quarter square in Cancer. Then we had the full moon in Libra. So this 270-degree angle is the completion of the harvest of this evolution. Of course, from the fall equinox to this point, moving forward from this point, we've harvested our crops, we've put it in the barrels, and we're ready to start divvying it up. So this is the peak point where, relative to evolution, we started in March. We're going to see peak Sagittarius, the height of how we evolved.
yeah.
And how we're ready to actualize this higher self of us. I think it's going to be liberating, and in that vein, and liberating in a sense where, you know, no one expected these Twitter documents to be released. So it's kind of like the individual counterattack, where now Jupiter is supplementing individual powers and voices, but we get our collective support. You know, Saturn in Aquarius has been the loading screen for group dynamics. You have people more than ever during this 2-year period taking all their expertise and skills and forming groups where they can all share all that. And I think we'll finally start to see the completion, but I think we also might start to see psychological operations, and I'm gonna get super conspiracy theorist here, you know, subversive mechanics to distract you from how you may be coming into this power in light of new technology, in light of new unregulated techniques or facets. But most importantly, you are coming into the full evolution of what you've been growing since March, and congratulations. Will overcome the growing pains that it took to get here.
I think it's also just it's like very purifying, like the solstice and the equinox points, because it's like literally a reset. So, you know, cardinal energy is initiating something. So when we think of, you know, now that we're coming into the winter solstice, that 3/4 square is the harvest. We're going out and we're bringing everything in. Why? Because we need to be harvesting everything we've been working hard for, at least here in the northern hemisphere, to get through the winter until we can get to the spring. So, you know, whether you've been stocking up on food, you've been saving money, you finally have accumulated so many, you know, vacation days or time off or whatever, that's kind of like what this is about right now. And the energy is quite heavy when you think about it, because this is a fucking Saturn party. The last few times that we've had a new moon, I've noticed this these last few months, we're having a new moon right around the time that the sun is ingressing into a new sign. Mm-hmm. So we're actually looking at the moon phase is in a balsamic phase. You have the moon that's behind the sun. So Capricorn season starts off kind of like gloomy. Yeah. With that moon in Sagittarius. It's positive because it's, you know, an aspect to Jupiter, but still it's kind of grouchy, and we're getting quiet.
Mars, yeah. That's deep.
Yeah. And so many planets in Capricorn is definitely very much like get down to business.
Let me know if you feel the balsamic phase coming into the new moon starts Capricorn off very controversial, because we're ending Sagittarius thinking we see something, and then the balsamic phase square Neptune is like a twist. It's like, what? Like, that's it? And then boom, Capricorn season, new moon.
Yeah, I think the other thing is just because this is like a snapshot of the next 3 months, having Saturn now direct and it's gaining momentum in the third decan is very strong. It's like second to all this Capricorn too. So we're starting to really see like this maturity, and there's like a sense of like foundation that's being built through new networks, new technology, new groups, new associations. But the Sun square Jupiter, it feels larger than life, especially when you have something at 0 degrees. So the Capricorn area of your life is very much being influenced still by the Aries area of your life. And the Sun square Jupiter can be, overly optimistic, overly positive. It can be a little egocentric. When we had Aries season in 2022, Jupiter was still in Pisces. So we didn't get to see that sweetness of the exalted Sun in Aries conjunct Jupiter. You will see that in this next season. So what's interesting is on one hand, it's this closing phase where this starts off with a balsamic moon. So we're getting quiet, ready for the new moon. We come into Capricorn season and then we're setting new intentions within, a couple of days later when that new moon hits. But what we're really waiting for is Aries season. So I look at this and I'm like, wow, it's saying we have to do all of this Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces stuff before we have more freedom, more authority over our own lives, before we're more so educated in like the game of life.
If you ask me, World War III preparation is Capricorn season. In private, 11th house to Saturn in Aquarius. So you're not going to know that governing authorities are preparing resources, perhaps maybe until Aqua or Aries.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you're already hearing this stuff. I mean, I saw a thing today on the news that was like, Putin gives an interview saying that we're prepared to use nuclear weapons if necessary to defend ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's already starting the narrative.
Right.
We will if we're pushed to that point. And I think maybe it's getting ahead of the curve and being like, look, we don't want to, but we will if we have to. So if we are threatened, we're going to do this as like a reaction or whatever.
And in light of that, I could be wrong, right? It could be related to it, but I almost feel that what will trigger such a conflict is not even going to be based on what's happening now. It's like we might think, if World War III happened, it's probably because of Russia and Ukraine. Could be China and Taiwan. Could be something that just boom. Because
Pluto and Aquarius is very nuclear to me.
And unpredictable and unexpected. And the ruler's in Taurus. So the trine that Capricorn makes to Uranus and Taurus and the North Node in Taurus is the most iconic and important transit in this season. Yeah.
What do you make of the fact that this is, Capricorn season and we're starting off the gate with seeing both Mercury and Venus roughly in a trine to the North Node and Uranus? Mm-hmm. So what does that say about, where we're leveling up, or there's some sense of maturing or responsibility when it comes to Taurus related things?
It's the fundamental transformation and liberation of representation when it comes to financial institutions and authorities, because we have to remember that during this period, America, France, and in multiple countries that switched their constitution and through these revolutions brought change, switched the tax status. Because I'm realizing a lot of this really just comes down to tax and what authority people have over you. Realistically, no government authority has authority to rule anything over you, whether you're told that it's agreement by the people. Like, to be a servant is really kind of forfeiting that right. And you have this whole notion of being able to be a sovereign citizen or whatever. I think people are coming more into the realization of that. But I also feel like with this innovation and automation of technology and worth and everything that's occurring, this, if anything, is redefining the nature with which people give their power away. And we may start to see, it's going to look like it just started here, but we may start to see like the beginning of collective organized boycotting done right. Like outside the whole, we're boycotting this, but like actually seeing traction on how everyone's like finally on the same page, given the collective alignment with the nodes in Uranus. And the way people spend money might be different too. But this is based off of very quick, rapid fire changes that post-Sagittarius season, we just have to, with Jupiter and Aries, get used to the new. I think that's the square with the Sun and Jupiter, by the way. It's like, by the way, we're doing this now. It's like, what the fuck? Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is kind of a big burst forward. Like,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I think it also, don't talk too much about like asteroids, but just noticing that Ceres is at 0 degrees of Libra, in opposition to Jupiter. So Ceres being kind of connected to, the archetype of like Persephone and separation or isolation or being pulled apart or abandonment. But it can also be about grain and people who are involved in growing of wheat or food or like things in regards to bread or seeds or things like that. So I'm looking at Ceres in opposition to Jupiter square the sun, and I'm wondering, are we going to hear about grain shortages or new limitations on grain, flour, food, the government intervening possibly with like contracts and stuff that certain farmers might have with certain companies, and supplies. So that's something else that can kind of be inflated during that time as well. So we have the...
I was going to ask, what do you feel about the Lilith opposition to Pluto?
Oh, well, I mean, Lilith is super erratic, so she's probably going to go back and forth a little bit between that. But I mean,
She's with Athena.
That's still that women fighting for rights. I don't think we've heard the end of the women's reproductive stuff. I think there's going to be more challenges that are going to come up in regards to that. And also people feeling threatened that they don't have the security of home, because Lilith is going to act very, raw and rebellious and reactionary.
Pluto opposite Lilith to me looks like that ruling you shared to me about adultery being banned in Indonesia, or sex outside of marriage.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing a huge push for conservatism in general, whether it's connected to just
unexpected
tradition or religious stuff or whatever. And the government pushing for that, and how that's going to actually separate and divide and create problems in some families. Because, I mean, you may have people that are not married, but they may actually live together, pay bills together, raise children together, whatever. But like, what's going to happen? I mean, literally, if you haven't seen that stuff and what's going on in Indonesia, that's not just people who live there locally. This is people who travel there. You can't share space with another person unless you're married.
Wow.
Also, like, it's punishable by fine or jail.
Yeah, up to a year.
So that's going to tear families apart.
It's so interesting.
It is, and you're going to see, even through the retrograde, because Venus and Mercury are going to come into conjunction with Pluto, and they're going to oppose, that's the theme. Is like, where is government intervening so much that it's like not allowing the family unit to be a family unit, whether it's taxes that are too high so people can't afford to pay for their homes, or there not being enough incentive to get married, to have children, or just creating bogus bullshit laws that are really interfering with the ability for people to make their own decisions about how they're raising their children, how they're living within their home, and their rights kind of being like threatened or potentially stripped away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I believe that's very close to the United States Mercury. They have something in opposition to Pluto. I don't know, but it might be more about the housing markets here. So then we have the new moon that's going to be in Capricorn on the 23rd. And that's going to be at 1 degrees of Capricorn. So
wow,
still very loud because it's still in a square to Jupiter. So you're not just going to see the sun square Jupiter, but then the moon is going to move in, and
that's the Aries degree, right?
New moons have that feeling of, it's like, a solar eclipse is a new moon. It's not going to be as strong as a solar eclipse, but you get what I'm saying. It's action oriented when it's in a square to Jupiter and Aries. Obviously, new moons in Capricorn, it's a great time to like take the initiative, come up with a plan, strategize. Like, look at all these planets in Capricorn when it comes to work, money, communication, business, responsibility, authority figures, whatever. I mean, you got a ton of planets hanging out in Capricorn. So that new moon is very loud. And it's almost like Capricorn season just kind of kicks the door and is like, we're here.
Yeah, that's for sure.
What do you make of the new moon square Jupiter?
To me, that is forcing comfort zones around how you identify yourself, open and that looks like a mandate. I know I saw an article about Fauci encouraging lockdowns again, and people kind of like not wanting that. And then there's the quarantine camps in China. So I don't want to speculate on lockdowns.
Fauci needs to get bent.
Oh my God. More and more, I just feel like he's a fall guy.
Isn't he leaving soon?
I think so. I think he resigned or whatnot, which is interesting post-Saturn Cap. But yeah, that square is, to me, like a pressure cooker that pushes forward. I think it's going to be something super exciting, but with Neptune behind Jupiter, people won't realize what it really is. Kind of like that Lensa app thing, where it's like, you know, something that trends and people don't realize.
You didn't read the fine print and see that it has access to all of your information
that
and facial
part.
recognition.
It could even be a whole new app based on that concept that comes out during this time.
I think it's when everybody started doing it, I was like, first of all, this is weird. Just me. I'm always like super.
I felt the same thing.
I'm very like suspicious of that stuff. That's why I wouldn't do it. And then when I did my research into it, what really irked me was the fact that it's taking from artistic styles, from artists who are on the internet or who are making a living, literally creating art with those specific styles. So you've got this AI that's tapping into a plethora of work and art and all kinds of stuff on the internet, and it's literally just pillaging and stealing all of this work that other people are putting out there to make a living just to generate something that you're going to put on your Instagram and maybe get 12 likes, okay? Nobody gives a shit that much about seeing 20 photos of you looking like an anime character. Sorry.
No, that's wild.
Nobody cares. Sorry.
I personally didn't think like, I didn't look at it and be like, that's weird because I'm not that psychic.
Oh,
but
yeah,
like,
no.
But like I felt like, nah, something in me was like, I was like, okay, let me try it. And then something in me was like, don't do it.
I went through down the rabbit hole and I watched that video where the guy was like, are you guys not reading the fine print? And I was like, is this real? And then I went and looked at all of it. Like, you're essentially just giving them the green light to go through all of your analytics and like all kinds of stuff in your phone.
A lot of people don't care because they're like, oh, Facebook does that already. TikTok does it already. And
I don't use TikTok specifically because of, ever since I've heard, I deleted TikTok.
So you don't use it?
I got rid of the app. I have had a TikTok. I used it twice maybe.
I have a TikTok right now. I haven't plunged into it, but after you saying that, I might delete it.
I deleted it because of what I saw and like just the fact that like it has so many ties to like China and other places, and like when you say okay on TikTok too, you're mindlessly scrolling, but what you don't realize is if you read the fine print, it has access to other things in your phone. And you have to kind of question like what
Facebook and Instagram, or is it more with TikTok? It's
even more because because I mean from what I've seen, like obviously Facebook and Instagram, they're gonna go and look at stuff too, but they're not doing facial recognition stuff, and you have so many people on TikTok using their face. And I get it, there's an incentive. People are becoming wildly popular overnight, but in my opinion, the more that this stuff comes out and like when something becomes popular, I'm like, there's something off here.
There's something off for sure.
I don't feel right doing it specifically because it rips off artists. And so because of that, I will not participate in that. I don't care how popular
I was more indifferent. Like something in me was, it was just like the established titles that we find out is a scam now. Like I didn't really care about the research. Something in me was just like, don't do it.
Established titles. Is that where you become a lord?
Yeah, that's a whole scam. You don't get any plot of land. It's supposed to be a gag gift. And then they got exposed and now they're like, it is what it is. But that's so Neptunian. But like, you know, I mean, trust your intuition because I'm saying the story again. And that's why I appreciate Candace, because Candace is a Scorpio. I'm the Gemini, right? So like she had the intuition. She dug in and found to the bottom of it. I had the intuition like a child, right? I was like, I don't know why I'm feeling this. And then the information came out. And it's like, oh, okay. So just keep that in mind. I feel like for people who did get the Lensa app, it's not like you did anything wrong. You're the one getting finessed. So we're angry for you.
But that's been a thing for a while. I feel like Lensa had another thing. Like, weren't they also doing like, take two people's photos and merge it? And this is
that too. They keep doing like periodic stuff
like the
and
one
DNA stuff
that
too.
makes you look older. So remember when we had the aging app? This technology has been around for a while.
I've never done any of those, by the way.
No.
Not because I didn't even want to, but I just was like, nah, I'm good.
No, I'm good. I don't feel the need to put my face on anything. Nobody wants my identity anyway.
Fuck it.
I don't want that.
I mean, the argument with that is, I mean, even if you didn't do that, they already still have ways to get your identity.
Because many of us are using facial recognition just to even get into our phone.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like if they wanted to, they could hack it. But if you're getting into an app and you're signing your rights
why
away,
still give it away, right? It doesn't make sense. I mean, you could not care if you have nothing to hide, but still, I mean, the important thing to keep in mind is we hear this news, but we don't know how to make sense of all of it. And that's where the end of 2022 into 2023 is the end of 230-year, 150-year cycles that it's all coming into. And if anything, I think that square, to answer your question, is that first burst of, oh, like, and that's that first burst that by the end of Pisces season will come into the completion of, oh, but that's where it begins, like Capricorn.
Well, you know, we've heard stuff that's come out, like they were making statements from Homeland Security or like the FBI or something where they were like, yeah, TikTok's not safe.
What?
Yeah, they were basically saying that they have concerns, like that it's just basically
that was during
used
Trump's
as,
administration?
No, it's been recent. It's been coming out
What?
recently, yeah.
Wait, recently?
Yes.
Still?
They're still saying that, yeah.
That's crazy.
And I will watch TikToks on Instagram, but like I won't use the TikTok
I'm sorry.
app.
I'm going to ask that again. You're saying recently
Recently,
still?
Yes.
What are you talking? That's
that
wild.
they have concerns that like they were saying it was weird the way they worded it. They said something like they're afraid that there was videos and things being pumped into it that was trying to give foreigners from the United States the impression of American culture, and vice versa, that also that there were things that were being created there that was like giving false impressions to like people in China. I don't know, like this whole like China doesn't trust the US doesn't trust China, like that goes way back, like way back, way before.
No countries trust each other.
I mean,
even the allies. Europe doesn't trust America.
I think Pluto
they just say they do.
In Capricorn in general is about government surveillance, and that there has been government surveillance going on for a very long time, whether it's
Edward Snowden.
Yeah, whether it's Facebook or them being able to fucking spy on you through your algorithms and what you're searching for, or the fact that now they're passing laws and legislation to be able to look into your bank account. Like, guys, this has been 20 years in the making of Pluto and Capricorn. We're about to find out when this ingress happens into Aquarius, just how much information they have, and where having so much information out there and on the cloud or just out in public is possibly doing us all like a major disservice.
And it's just a technological advancement that just gave leverage to all the wrong people.
It's technological enslavement.
Yeah, I think the most important part of this, which is history repeating itself, a lot of these people are leveraged with, you know, the average person has to take so much time taking care of their family, going to work just to maintain their living. The amount of time that it takes to actually commit to being a member of your society and being involved in your local politics is the only reason why corrupt politics get away with what they do, because you are distracted. I think Pluto Aquarius, just like the people who did the French Revolution, just like the people in Russia who did the Russian Revolution, just like the American Revolution, everyone all over the world is realizing we need to take a more active stance to be aware of all these things politicians do behind the back. And it's been happening small by small, but I think it's where it all comes together. And people are all fed up. You see, like, China didn't protest since Tiananmen Square. This is huge. And last time Tiananmen Square, they killed them. So, like...
Now some of the protests recently are pushing back into the same areas where they were protesting.
And burning quarantine camps.
They're going in...
That's
and they're
huge.
literally on trains in parts of China, going through people's phones, making sure they don't have certain social media apps and stuff, because they're trying to ensure that what's going on over there is not getting out.
Damn.
So we're only seeing a fragment of what's happening. And you have to take into consideration... Mars and Mercury have been in a square to Neptune. So that either tells us that we're either not seeing the whole picture and there's a lot more going on in terms of these isolation camps and these people that are being shipped there than what meets the eye, or some of this is manipulated and it's not real, or it's something that's been altered in some way. So we don't know.
I think all of what you said is true in its own way. Like
I think if you've got potentially Chinese officials on U.S. soil that's policing people here, And if you've got people on trains that are going through phones trying to see if they've got certain social media apps and if they're sending people to camps, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like, the irony of having certain people in the spotlight right now arguing whether or not the Holocaust was real. And they're going back and forth about that, but we see thousands of people being shipped to camps in China.
Right.
Hello, the history repeats itself. Stop getting consumed with what is going on with what they're debating. While you're doing that, it's actually
like these
happening.
are media outlets. All these media outlets are controlled by a very few amount of people. So why are they trending useless shit? Like Kanye West just said anything. It'd be different if he like didn't hire someone because they're Jewish. It'd be different if he smacked someone because they're Jewish. Kanye West says crazy shit like every other year. So why aren't we talking about what's happening in China? Why aren't we talking about
that's a little bit more important.
What's happening with Twitter? Right? Straight up. So these things just reveal a lot, and people get outraged. You facilitate and pander this, and then it misleads you from the fact that majority of people in this world don't give a fuck about any of that. So
well, people are asleep. They don't want to ask questions, and they also can't really come up for air just given what's going on right now economically. Like, it's fucking tough out there. Like, people are having to make some really difficult decisions, and they're feeling like they're at the mercy of the government.
This is why sex work is going to be you just gave me this epiphany right now. South Node Scorpio, everything you just said, South Node Scorpio, Uranus and Taurus is going to innovate sex work. And that's going to really, because of every time we see poverty release or economics fall, sex work is going to rise.
Well, but there's two sides to that. Like, I'm very kind of pro, like, if that's your hustle, because that's one of the oldest professions in history, by the way.
There's an innovation of it.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So if that's your thing, and if you can do it in a way that's empowering, and like you can make your money, and like a lot of people are doing it to like pay for homes, take care of kids, pay for education, take care of parents, like that's what they're doing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They're mostly of the younger generation.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but I mean, there are some working women and men out there that
pioneers. The pioneers.
But I mean, like, man, like, you know, a lot of the cities in the Southwest in the Western days were literally founded on prostitution and brothels.
Oh yeah. Vegas.
So usually you got an older working lady that's ready to hang up the hat, and she becomes a madam, and then, like, you know, they bring in minors, and then they end up having a saloon, and they have a brothel, and then boom, 200 years later you have a city in the Southwest. So it's like, it's a very respectable, to some extent, profession, but I feel like, I don't know, yes, it's going to be that, but there's a darker side to the South Node in Scorpio, and I think it's the money that's
sex trafficking
that's in sex work, which is children, all the stuff that's been exposed on Twitter recently about all the child porn, it's real. All the stuff that's been going on also in the media with the brands that have been condoning this because they're Satanists and they believe that as long as they're showing you and telling you that this is what they're doing, there's no repercussions.
You're literally complicit because you're letting them do it.
Well, we've become brainwashed to, I think, the whole Pluto and Scorpio generation of just being like sex sells.
Wait. So based on what you just said right now, I think Pluto and Aqua is us coming out of that. And on top of that,
that's why you're seeing so much stuff coming up about gender and like trying to change the way that we look at
so that men
gender.
And a woman don't come together. And when I say that, I have done readings with same-sex couples that have taught me that, you know what I'm saying, there's connections there. Even though those same-sex couples have a masculine-feminine dynamic, but that's a thing. You know what I'm saying? And
well, there's a whole movement right now to say that gender identity and actual genitals in your body, it's not the same thing, that you don't necessarily need to identify in a certain way, that we should not be conditioning our children as a society to buy into one gender role or the other, which, I don't know, this is where we get into some sensitive stuff. I feel like it's not healthy to be telling younger children, and there's like been a push for this recently. I don't know where I saw it recently. It was like on, God, what was it? I know I sent it to you, but it was like some like children's like
detransitioning
book or something that's like, oh, well, if you haven't gone through puberty, then there's a way to stop that until you figure out what gender you are. Like,
so unnatural.
Well, North Node is conjunct Uranus still, so there's this sense of lots of changes going on with the physical body, but I feel like, listen, you can be whatever you want to be, believe in whatever you want to believe in, but I feel like once we're having the state and the federal government intervening with how we're telling children, Like, you can't buy a pack of
This
cigarettes
is a
unless you're
population.
18.
This is a population control mechanic.
You can't vote unless you're 18.
Right,
You can't
but
buy
you can change
alcohol
your
unless you're
gender.
21. But if you're 13 and you're depressed, you can kill yourself, or you can potentially
That's
have
how
a
many
mastectomy.
people are on this world that they have to do that. Like, this is all population control. Saturn, Aquarius, population. That's it. That's it.
Pluto and Aquarius
That's
too.
it.
That's
Pluto,
coming.
Aquarius.
Well, then the next
basically.
big thing, we've been talking about this a lot, and we'll talk about this in another video in the future, but we're already seeing glimmers of this, where it's like there is this whole push to basically be like, oh, if you're not happy and you want assisted suicide, if you're depressed,
Pluto, Aquarius.
which I'm neutral, because I can't imagine being in that situation.
I believe in assisted suicide. I believe in euthanasia, but I don't believe in using euthanasia to trick little kids to kill themselves.
Well, but
that's why I draw the line.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there's a push right now, an incentive to allow children to make life-altering decisions. And whether that's hormone blockers or assisted suicide, there is a push for this right now. So at what point, do we have kids who have been basically kept in confinement the last few years that are socially not acclimated, that a few years down the road may have depression and may also be totally hocked up on pharmaceuticals, that they're like, I don't want to be here. And there's laws being in place that if your kid wants to go through the process of assisted suicide, or if they want to go through gender reassignment, they can, and their parents can't do anything about it. But you can't vote unless you're at least 18. And even then, there's all these, I feel like they're trying to destroy, like, the nuclear family. I think that's really what's going on. And so this is why I've thought for some time that the North Node Uranus in Taurus is like the most rebellious thing you could do is literally become more conservative.
Yeah, straight up.
And maybe it's just like a getting older thing.
This is facts,
but like every day I'm like, fuck the system, let's get chickens.
And I feel
like fucking homestead, and not send our kids to public school.
No, but like when Uranus is in Scorpio, because the thing I love about what you said is that it took me my whole career to realize this. When Uranus was in Scorpio, there was the most major push to be more liberal.
Yeah, and porn
and now it's
all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And Uranus it's exalted in Scorpio.
It's exalted?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. So it's in fall in Taurus?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So, okay, that makes sense because the last economic crash in the 20s happened with Uranus Taurus. But I was going to say, when Uranus is in Scorpio, I think we're going to see that push to go liberal again.
Well, we've seen so many issues, so many problems in the past when we had Uranus go through Taurus. Some of the worst periods of time, medically speaking, in history.
Yeah, AIDS.
Fauci. No, when Uranus was in Taurus.
Oh, my bad.
Taurus,
Oh, the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
major.
I was talking about Pluto Scorpio.
That's
my
when
bad.
they were really starting to introduce lobotomies. That's when they were focusing on where were they, like, electrocute you? Electrotherapy.
Okay.
Things that. That was a booming time for mental institutions. Like, oh, you have, you're having some issues. Like, you're having problems. After having a kid, you're having some postpartum. Like, let's just give you some drugs and send you to the center for a little bit, and then you come back and you're just like fucking fried. Uranus and Taurus. Yeah, the only really decent thing that was kind of coming around that time is we did see innovations in antibiotics and stuff. But look at where we are now. So many people are so used to just taking a Z-Pack or just taking an antibiotic that it's like it's not having the same effects anymore. People are becoming immune to it, and it's also fucking up our gut. What is it? The biomes?
Yeah. Biomes in the gut. Regardless, just keep in mind that in terms of this whole nomenclature, Pluto and Aquarius, 2020 to 2022 was the beta test. Pluto and Aquarius is coming through. Pluto and Aquarius begins with the end of all things. So we have Saturn, or the world as we know it. So we have Saturn and Pisces. But the true beginning won't really be until Neptune and Saturn in Aries 2025. And then Uranus and Gemini move forward. So that's when we'll start to see the light. We're entering a period of darkness. You have to walk by faith. And Capricorn season is going to prepare the direction and structure for what faith you're walking through in tandem with the sextile of Neptune. You're going to be gaining very grounded evidence of a direction you're moving forward to that most other people may not see, but you'll feel with Pisces is what will break through when Neptune and Saturn go through 2025, and you just can't give in to deception, peer pressure, coercion, ultimatums. Remember that you are not of this world. You're just in this world.
Saturn in Aquarius
And
that's been a big lesson of not giving into peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a really difficult one for a lot of people.
Leos have been having to face, I think the Tory Lanez trial is going to be the hugest that's just happening right now. Because I feel like Groundhog's Day, depending on what happens to him as a Leo, if he gets fucked, we're all fucked. If he can't get through being lied against, unless he's guilty. If he's guilty, may he be judged. But if he's innocent and he can't get through that, we're fucked. Like, this is a Leo. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I see it. When people get at Ye, when people get celebrities, they're like representatives of what we represent. If they can get at them, what are they going to do to you? So this is something to keep in mind.
So you guys saw the Mercury retrograde video, but obviously Mercury turns retrograde on the 29th, and it's sandwiched between Pluto and Venus, and Mercury's going to retrograde in conjunction to Venus. So there's this theme of reflecting on the past, reflecting on resources, communications with lovers or people from the past. So you guys saw that. Then we have Venus coming into conjunction with Pluto on January 1st. Kind of important. I mean, I think that, New Year's Eve going into New Year's Day, not bad because you got the moon in Taurus, and the moon's going to be touching on the North Node. It's going to, trine the sun. But the Venus-Pluto is definitely like a huge, profound shift of matters of love and relationships and values. And I'm just looking at like this locomotive of all these planets that are in Capricorn, and then it's semi-sextile Saturn, and then, Saturn is semi-sextile Neptune. There's some big buildup of energy that's going from Capricorn to Pisces that is getting ready to really emerge, and that is going to be in spring of next year. Interesting energy also to watch the moon Uranus come into a trine with Mercury and Venus. I mean, I've said flat out several times in the last episode and also on my channel, we're going to find out how bad things are about to become economically in January. I feel like we're going to find out that people weren't shopping as much, or people were relying on debt more, which we already know even prior to Christmas.
Did you show me that video of the factory worker who was seeing that they're not telling us something because normally there's trucks full of stuff?
Oh, yeah. There's nothing coming into some of the docks. They said that there's just tons and tons and tons of shipping containers that are coming in. They're just sitting there empty, or they're coming back empty. Damn. There's nothing in them. And
that's crazy because 2021, that was when we were hearing about farms getting burned down.
Well, there's an incentive to create, a crisis in regards to food, but we're still feeling the effects of the Saturn-Uranus square. So there's obviously issues in production. We've heard recently this week, production in China is down 40%. What does that tell you, right? Is it because we're not doing business with China as much? Is it because we can't buy as much? Is it because we've been buying cheap shit for so long and like it's just not sustainable? There is definitely an incentive to try to crush gas. You're going to hear more about issues relating to gas and gas prices, which does affect our ability to transport things. I don't know. I think that there is just going to be some big government meltdowns going on in the new year, and you're going to be seeing it just straight out the gate from the beginning of the year. When Pluto and Venus come into conjunction, that's pretty significant. Obviously, Mercury will keep doing its thing, going retrograde, and we're going to see the Sun and Mercury cazimi around the 7th, and then we're going to watch Mercury trine Uranus again on the 9th. The Sun will have already been in a trine there as well, so that's about kind of getting things in order to, figure out how to get more stable financially. And then we'll see that go direct at 8 degrees, right the same day that the Sun comes into conjunction with Pluto. And what's interesting also is, Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. It's co-ruled by Uranus, but to watch that ingress of going into Aquarius season and then Venus is coming into conjunction with Saturn is whatever breakdown happens with all those conjunctions during Capricorn season, it's going to be a reflection of, this is the new normal. Mm-hmm. I didn't even touch on the full moon. Let me just touch on that really quick. Because that full moon is going to be during the Mercury cazimi moment. So the full moon is so much about, wait, what happened? What came out? What information? What leak? January 6th.
Pluto Capricorn gave us Barack Obama and Joe Biden, President Trump, and the Pence dude, and then of course Joe Biden and Lucifer. I mean Kamala Harris. So that's quite the era, and the most important thing in Capricorn season is the final boss battle in conjunction of the Sun to Pluto. If you've ever played a video game, if you've ever seen a season series like Cheers or like Roseanne, who got canceled for her remarks, this is the end of a long season series you've been watching since a kid. This is the final boss battle you've been playing in a very long video game. This is it. Since 2008, the last Sun conjunction we'll have until it goes into Aquarius. So we might have Sun conjunctions after, but it would have already gone into Aquarius. It's the end of an era. And yeah.
But we looked at it, even when it does move forward, it'll be right after it moves.
Into Aquarius.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so this is it, and that might be like the final word, or there may.
That's it.
I think a lot of this is going to be about potential amendments to the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because even before we
Inevitably.
had the Pluto return, I remember talking about this with you, being like, the U.S. Pluto return is going to be about money corruption. It's going to possibly be about like laundering, money from war, tax issues, privacy issues, but freedom of speech, and it would come down to a document because it's in a document degree.
The First Amendment and the 13th Amendment, free speech and slavery, because slavery has never been abolished. If you get locked up, you're a slave. Like, this is facts, no matter your color. So I think that might be touched. I know Ye spoke on that, but First Amendment, everything that you're saying about this is so important. Because if Nostradamus is right about civil war in the United States, this is what's going to trigger it. Everything that's happening right now is going to lead into this. So it's something to take into account because there are going to be a lot of casualties. This is going to coincide with an economic crash. And the reason why as an astrologer I have to take him serious is the last economic crash in the Roaring 20s was when Uranus was in Taurus. Yeah. And then the last civil war
Pluto
that we
was
had...
in Cancer.
Exact opposite. Oh my God.
Or was that in
that's
the 40s?
Crazy.
No, maybe that was in the 40s.
That was in the 40s. It was in the 40s. But still, regardless, like the civil war that America had, I think was Neptune, Aries, Uranus, Gemini. So
well, it's gonna. I mean, I think the beginning process of the Civil War will be next year, but I think it's going to carry until 2026, 2027.
Me too.
I feel eventually the United States will disband and we'll just see separate territories.
Yeah. Straight up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be a part of the Uranus return. I mean, I think the silver lining in all of this is that, and I have thought this for some time, we're finally coming out of 2 years of Saturn square Uranus.
Yeah.
The next 2 years, we see Pluto go into Aquarius. Yeah, we see Saturn go into Pisces, but we're also going to see Jupiter and Uranus start sextiling Neptune. So we're going to find that there is a way to be able to help those who are in need. We can help food and clothe other people by coming together, banding together. And you may be anti-voting, but if you are anti-voting, realize that you need to be voting with your fucking money.
That you got to vote with your dollar.
You got to vote with your money. Because
boycott,
whether it's you saying, I'm challenging paying these taxes, or if it's you saying, hey, I'm not buying from major retailers, I'm not doing that, I'm not putting my money into these brands. The reason why the Balenciaga thing is so significant is because it's tied to a whole slew of other brands. It has ties to Gucci, it has ties to, a ton. There's a bunch of other companies that are sister companies tied to that. And if they are doing dark, twisted stuff relating to hurting children or exploiting children or pornography, what does that tell you? Why are we glamorizing as a society, buying all this expensive shit and wearing these brands and basically fueling that, when in reality we can be putting money into brands or developing our own or crowdfunding our own, creating products and other things or food that's going to be supporting what it is that we want to be building. So it's healthy food, clean brands for the environment, but also stuff that's supporting other people that are, close to us, maybe not buying stuff overseas.
And we also have to take into account that this is the strengthening and second part of this threefold facet where we had the Saturn in Capricorn, North Node in Gemini, Then we have the Saturn in Aquarius, North Node in Taurus, which is the second part. But what you need to keep in mind is this last part is, I think, the most devilish. It's like we're going to spend the last part with Saturn in Pisces, with the North Node going into Aries. That's the final part of everything. And it might start off with giving you the false illusion that we've cleared everything, everything's over, you don't have to worry anymore, when you have to be more vigilant than ever, because this last part is where you have to take into account everything you've learned. And it can very realistically be like, we've done all this research, we've come into this to expose the right people, and then they give you what you want, and you're like, okay, versus continuing to go hard. So that could be how Capricorn season starts too.
Yeah, I mean, like Pluto in Aquarius and Saturn and Neptune in Aries is, we will have created our own prisons. Personally,
or liberation,
yeah. Depending on how you decide to do that. We're going to see society split into two very different directions.
The ascended ones and the 3Ds,
or the people who are going to be living in smart cities and doing the digital currencies, and they're in the system, or the people who are going to be going back and living more naturally, and they're more nomadic, or they're kind of tuning more so into.
And neither is right or wrong. Like however you are able to work either, but. You know, just remember, everything is flowing towards the individual. So that Uranus homesteader is going to be ahead of their time.
Yeah. Let us know. What do you guys think? What are you looking forward to in terms of Capricorn season? What are some of the goals that you're setting? Are you excited for the solstice? How do you celebrate? Obviously, it's like the holiday time for you guys as well. So I know as we're getting towards the end of the year, we're wishing you happy holidays with your friends and your family. And those of you guys who are Capricorns and Sagittarius is born in the month of December, happy birthday to you. We hope you guys have a good one. Catch us next time. We'll see you on another episode pretty soon. We're getting closer and closer to 100 episodes. So thank you guys for your support. We appreciate it. And we hope you have a good one. Take care.